In a small English coastal village, perched on the edge of a cliff, stood an old lighthouse. It hadn't been used in years, but villagers often spoke of its magical lantern that once guided ships safely through the stormy seas. The lantern was said to have a gentle golden glow that could calm even the roughest waves. One stormy night, a young girl named Emily, who lived in the village, couldn't sleep. The wind howled, and the waves crashed against the rocks below. She lay in bed, feeling restless and a little scared. Her grandmother, seeing her wide awake, whispered, "Would you like to visit the old lighthouse? It has a way of making everything feel calm." Emily's eyes lit up, and together they walked up the winding path to the lighthouse. As they reached the top, Emily saw the lantern glowing softly, casting a warm light across the dark sea. She could almost hear it humming a quiet, soothing tune. Her grandmother began to tell her the legend of the lantern. "Long ago," she said, "this lantern was lit by a gentle spirit who wanted to guide sailors home. Even though it hasn't been used in years, the spirit's light still glows, calming the sea and anyone who sees it." Emily felt the warmth of the lantern's light washing over her. The storm outside seemed to quiet, and the crashing waves softened to gentle whispers. She sat by the lantern, her eyes growing heavier with each passing moment. Before she knew it, she was fast asleep in her grandmother's arms, comforted by the peaceful glow of the old lighthouse. From that night on, whenever storms kept her awake, Emily would think of the lantern's soft light and drift off to sleep, dreaming of calm seas and gentle breezes. Once upon a time, in the vast skies over England, there was a small, fluffy cloud named Charlie. Unlike the other clouds that liked to drift lazily across the sky, Charlie was curious and adventurous. He always dreamed of visiting the places below, the rolling hills, the ancient castles, and the peaceful villages. One day, as the wind gently nudged him along, Charlie decided it was time to go on an adventure. He floated lower and lower until he could see the green fields and little cottages scattered across the countryside. He watched children playing, farmers tending their crops, and rivers winding through the valleys. As evening fell, Charlie noticed a small village where the lights in the windows began to twinkle like stars. He hovered above the village, feeling the cool breeze of the night. Just then, he saw a little boy named Tom standing by his window, looking up at the sky. Tom whispered, "I wish I could touch a cloud." Hearing this, Charlie felt a warm glow inside. He gently floated down, so close that Tom could almost reach out and touch him. But instead of touching, Charlie decided to do something special. He sent down a soft drizzle that felt like a cool, refreshing mist, making Tom laugh with delight. "Thank you, little cloud," Tom whispered as he climbed into bed, feeling calm and happy. Charlie smiled and floated back up, knowing he had made someone's evening magical. From that night on, whenever Charlie felt the urge to explore, he remembered the joy he brought and knew that his adventures were also a way to share happiness with the world below. In a peaceful English village, by a serene pond, stood a circle of ancient willow trees called the Whispering Willows. When the wind blew, their leaves would murmur soft, comforting sounds, as if sharing secrets with those who listened closely. Lily, a young girl living in a nearby cottage, loved the willows deeply. She would spend her days playing beneath their sweeping branches, and at night, she often imagined the trees telling her magical stories. One warm summer night, Lily found herself unable to sleep. The stillness of her room made her restless, so she decided to visit the willows. As she reached the pond, a gentle breeze stirred the branches, and the willows began to whisper. "Once upon a time," they murmured, "there was a little fox named Finn who couldn't sleep. He left his cozy den, seeking the stars. In a moonlit clearing, he lay on the soft grass and watched the stars above. Slowly, they began to dance, twinkling gently. Finn's eyes grew heavy, and soon, he was fast asleep, comforted by the stars' silent dance. Lily felt her eyelids grow heavy as the story unfolded. She yawned, curled up beneath the willows, and soon drifted into a peaceful slumber cradled by the tree's soothing whispers. From that night on, whenever she couldn't sleep, Lily would visit the Whispering Willows, knowing their gentle stories would always guide her to dreamland. Once upon a time, in the heart of the English countryside, there was a tiny, sleepy hedgehog named Henry. Henry lived under the roots of a grand old oak tree, surrounded by soft moss and bright wildflowers. Every night, as the moon rose and the stars began to twinkle, Henry would yawn and stretch his tiny paws. But tonight was different. Tonight, Henry couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, his prickles rustling against the leaves. He tried counting the stars, but they only made him more awake. Just then, a wise old owl named Oliver, who lived in the tree above, hooted gently. "What's the matter, little hedgehog?" he asked, his golden eyes gleaming in the dark. "I can't sleep," Henry whispered. "The stars are too bright and the night feels too long." Oliver hooted softly again. "Let me tell you a secret," he said. "In the forest, there is a magical lullaby that only the night creatures know. Would you like to hear it?" Henry nodded eagerly, and so Oliver began to sing. His lullaby was gentle and soothing, filled with the rustling of leaves, the whisper of the wind, and the soft hum of the distant stream. As Oliver sang, Henry's eyes grew heavier and heavier until he could no longer keep them open. By the time the lullaby ended, Henry was fast asleep, nestled snugly in his cozy little burrow, dreaming of moonlit meadows and twinkling stars. And from that night on, whenever Henry couldn't sleep, Oliver would sing him the magical lullaby, and the little hedgehog would drift off into the sweetest of dreams.